I'm gonna do the most requested video I have had so far. So thanks to the one guy that requested it, we're gonna do a walk around of the XJ here. As you saw in the drone footage, I had a tribal police officer come down here just to see what I was doing. Technically, I am on tribal land. Luckily, he didn't tell me to leave or anything because I really wanted to do the walk around here and be able to have views of this ice buildup that we're getting here in northern Idaho. This is the Clearwater River. I just want to start by talking about the story of this Jeep because, like with a lot of vehicles, this one actually has a really cool story. It is a 1999 Jeep Cherokee XJ. It was bought by the local police department. Well, I guess it would have been bought by the city, but it was provided to the police department for the chief of police, and later it spent its life as the fire chief's vehicle. I remember being a little kid riding our bicycles around town and seeing this Jeep. Of course, it looked a lot different. I'll post a picture right here of what it looked like. And before anybody comments and says I ruined it, believe me, I wanted to keep all the stickers and the lights. I wanted to lift it and make it look like a lifted fire Jeep. The city wouldn't let me do it. When the fire department was done with this Jeep, they had had it for, maybe 20 years, 19 years. And they finally retired it, and I noticed it sitting in police impound, and I thought, hey, I'd really like to have that. So I asked a few people with the city. They weren't sure. A couple months went by. They said, hey, I think it's for sale. Go ahead and call the head of the city and see if you can get it. So that's exactly what I did. I called the head of the city. I had already looked at it. This Jeep had 90,700 miles on it. And I thought, man, I gotta have it. Super clean, minus some of the little bit of damage. We'll get into that. So I called the head of the city, and everything just aligned right for me. He was getting ready to retire, and I asked him, hey, what do you guys want for that Jeep? He said $5 grand. And I said, oh, okay, a little out of my price range. And he goes, no, I'm just kidding. It's not worth much. And he said, make me an offer. Well, I gave him the most honest offer I could, and that was just because that's all I had to spend on something. Money was a little tight for us. I offered him $500 and I got this Jeep. He said, it's yours, come get the title. So I did. I ran over right away with my $500. I got the title, I picked it up that night, and I couldn't believe how clean it was. So that's the story with this Jeep. It started out as a police, then a fire. Now it's mine. Of course, it was stock with lights and stuff when I got it. I'm super excited about this Jeep. So we're gonna start with an exterior walk around, then we'll go over the suspension, what's under the hood, and we'll finish off with the interior. So let's get to it. So it might have been obvious, but this is not a scripted walk around. So we're gonna start with the exterior, and I'm just gonna point things out and who makes it as I go along. I might miss some things. If there's something you want to know more about, leave a comment and I will get to that. So starting on the front, we have a Tough Stuff 4x4 bumper. I believe they discontinued this bumper, but I love it. This is a great bumper. It was one of the first things I bought. A lot of this stuff that's on this Jeep was previously on my 90 XJ, and that was one of those things. It was about 500 bucks when I got it, and it came as is. On top of that, we have a Nylite 20-inch bar. Almost all the lights on this vehicle are from Nylite, with the exception of the LED turn signals. Those are from Oxido LED. We have a Badlands Apex 12,000 pound winch. Some cheap Amazon lights. They were on there when I got it. Moving around to the side, we have Napier Precision flat fender flares. These are a great fender flare. They really open up the wheel well, and dealing with Doug is really good. I actually bought these really cheap, unused, brand new in the box on Facebook Marketplace, but I did have some questions for Doug and he was eager to answer those. So since we're right here, we have 35 1250 R15 milestar Patagonias, pretty good tire. And then we have some Method 304, I believe is the number. Really love those wheels. The cop light, this is functional. I unhooked the wire because I needed it for something else. And with the cage in there, I couldn't really use it too well anymore. And there must be a a trick to using these, because I never could use it very well as a spotlight. But I'm gonna leave it on there. Looks cool. These are JCR classic rock sliders. Decent fitment, lots of protection. Up on top we have a 40 or a 42 inch, can't remember, nightlight LED bar. And then we have 2 on each side of their, I believe it's 6-inch lights. And they are tucked, protected inside a custom built roof rack that I built. As you can see up there, it still has the fire number 501 and an antenna from whatever radios they were using. I recently added a new CB. More of the wheels. Got the Cheaphawk logo. I call it the Cheaphawk because a few years before I got this, when I still had my 90, JCR built theirs, the real Hawk, and it was kind of exactly what I wanted. So it's a play on their play on words. You know, theirs is named after the Trail Hawk, theirs is the real Hawk, mine's the cheap version of that, the Cheaphawk. And you'll see I have some JCR parts on here, and I'm always buying more. But anyway, that's where it gets its name. I also like stickers. Up on the back of the rack, we have a 12-inch nightlight bar. Just notice there's some condensation in that. Always carry a high lift up there. The bumper is a JCR Crusader. And I have a couple more nightlight lights tucked into there. The turn signals in here are from Oxedo again. And that's the exterior. So let's move on to the suspension. That's what most people have questions about. When I say suspension, I just mean everything underneath the Jeep. It's a nice cold day, perfect for doing an outside video. So moving underneath, I have the stock Dana 30 in the front. I have yet to re-gear it. I have cavfab alpha steering, and I actually have their track bar to put on. I'm waiting until I do a truss. And the track bar that I have on there right now is from Rubicon Express. The coils are 5.5-inch lift springs from Rubicon Express as well. I use the hockey puck trick for my bump stops. And I have a Curry Johnny joint for the upper link mount for the long arms. I went with the Durango steering box. I didn't really see a huge improvement, but I have it anyway. And then the Kevin's Offroad brace. I have a Rubicon Express track bar bracket and the Rubicon Express cross member brace as well. That's what a lot of people like to see, and that is the cavfab Alpha 3 link with the skid plate. Really good kit, just really good. If you want to see some flex pictures, go check out my Instagram at the Cheaphawk. There's a lot of flex pictures on there. I'm always posing on stuff. I have an advanced adapters slip yoke eliminator inside of a NP231 transfer case. And then we have an Adams driveline with their 1350 yoke for the Ford 8.8 axle. The rear leafs are 3.5-inch leafs, again from Rubicon Express. That is probably the one part on this that I would not recommend. They sag really bad and pretty quick. In the back, I have rough country shackles and their relocation brackets. Factory skid plate. I forgot to mention that not only did I get this Jeep for a good deal, but it was also an upcountry package. So it came with skid plates and an 8 1/4 with a limited slip. Of course, I've taken that out, but I was able to sell it for a good amount. And with the wheels, tires that were new, and that rear axle that I sold, I made $550 off those two things and paid $500 for the Jeep. Do your math. I got a Jeep for 50 bucks given to me. So like I said, a Ford 8.8 axle. It has a solid diff cover, and inside is an Aussie lunchbox locker. Really great company to work with. So I was talking about the sagging of the leaf springs. Look at the adjustment on the shackle here. And then we'll look at the other side, and you can see to get the Jeep to sit level, I had to mess with the adjustment in a bad way. It doesn't look good. Even non-car people point out that I have those adjusted wrong. So that's it for everything underneath. Let's go ahead and pop the hood, and we'll go under what I have under the hood. Nothing special, no LS swaps or anything. After I put the cage in, it was really hard to get the hood latch release button to pull that out. So I tied some string around it, and that makes it a lot easier. All right. The well-known Jeep 4.0, just an outstanding engine. I upgraded to an Odyssey battery. I needed a battery, and I wanted something that people recommended, so this is what I went with. My battery cables, as you'll see, look like trash, but I actually just today in the mail got my case suspension battery upgrade, or battery cable upgrade, I should say. So I'm eager to install that. A Trailhead Off-Road cowl intake. This is some custom wiring, fuses, relays that I did. Yeah, really that's kind of it under here. The engine mounts are shot, and I have some Stinky Fab Racing SFR mounts. Forgot to point that out on the transmission. I also have an SFR transmission mount. I have an install video of that already if you're interested. I did the ZJ fan clutch as well. I did notice a little bit difference there, I thought. I actually just got done doing a coolant flush yesterday, and my heater works again, so that's nice. We'll go ahead and let's start with the rear hatch. This is where I keep all my cargo. I have managed to fit a 35-inch spare back here. It's an old dog divider, and I have that mounted in nice and tight, and that keeps everything back here. This is the intermediate drawer off of a toolbox, and I actually have a full video of what I carry inside the Jeep on my YouTube as well. But it's nice to be able to have everything back here and out of the way. Really convenient to get to everything, and I don't have to worry about having a spare tire on the roof or on the back, which are both things that I've tried in the past, and I just didn't like either one of them. So now we'll move into the driver's seat. On the door I carry my tire deflator and my winch controller. It came with these nice seat covers, even though that one's a little stained. I got some rubber floor going on. I will talk about that in a future video as well. The rock hard 4x4 cage, pretty decent. I had some trouble with the fitment, but overall I'm pleased with it. One of the first things I did was have to switch from the dummy lights to a gauge cluster that had actual gauges. Installed a Kenwood stereo. I have my CB my lights. I believe it's Prime 4x4 that makes this switch panel. I know my Jeep's dirty. You'd think a guy would detail it before he did a walk around video, but I didn't feel like it. You can see some of the damage. Lots and lots of drill holes from when this thing used to be a service vehicle. I have some of them covered up. This is covering up about 10-15 of them. This is covering up a handful of them. You know, I used them where I could. I guess that's really all I can talk about on the inside. So what do I want to do in the future? We'll start with that now. I want to get rid of these switches and maybe block off those ones. Since I don't need my rearview mirror, I want to build an overhead console switch panel. I think that would be pretty cool. If you've been following me on Instagram, you might have seen that I have some full width axles to put under this. A high pinion Dana 44 and a 9-inch out of a 76 F-150. Those are kind of hard to find axles because they're, like I said, a high pinion Dana 44 with 1/2-inch axle tubes, and it also has the welded on wedges instead of the cast wedges, which makes it a lot easier if you're going to be swapping it into something else like this Jeep. And they're plenty strong for something like this Jeep, especially on 35s. I'd be going up to 37s if I swapped those in. But I've been really back and forth on either building those axles or sticking with these, and I think I've decided to go ahead and stick with these. I'll just save those axles for a future project. So the next step of this Jeep is going to be re-gearing for the 35s, and I'm going to go with 488 gears. Not sure which brand yet. I already have a locker in the rear. I also forgot to mention that I have Yukon 1541H alloy shafts in the rear, and that should be pretty much done back there. Throw in some gears. I'll have a plenty tough axle for these 35s, especially for the type of wheeling we do. In the front, I am going to add an Eaton e-locker, the 488 gears, and then I'm going to go with a K suspension over axle truss, and that should, and his C gussets as well. That should really beef up that axle. Plenty tough for these 35s and the type of wheeling we do. Eventually I want to be able to do the Rubicon and some trails in Moab, but I'm not going to be too crazy. I always carry a set of spare shafts underneath the rear seat, as well as a few other spare parts. Other than that, it's pretty much done. That's why I've decided to stick with these axles. Everything's a lot cheaper. For one, 35s are a lot cheaper than the 37s. Don't have to worry about that. I might put wheel spacers on to give me a little wider stance. What do you guys think? What does this Jeep need? What is it missing? What would you do if you had this Jeep? Anyway, that's it for the walk around. I know I probably missed a couple of things. I have a long list of parts that I've put on this, and I don't feel like I talked for that long. So if you saw anything that you were curious about, let me know and I will address it. I get asked occasionally if I'll sell this Jeep, and the answer is yes, of course I would, but you wouldn't like the number I have in mind. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you're interested. Stay tuned as I add more parts onto this. I have a few things already sitting in the garage to put on, and I will hopefully get to them soon. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.